Hello, everyone who is joining in, dialing in, joining us today. Nice to see people joining in. So, while people are joining us, I would like to welcome everyone. I'm Isaac from the Wellbeing Project, and I'm very excited today to welcome another episode of Bringing It Home with our incredible hosts, Sharon and Reggie, who often create this space and time for our journey of well-being. And it's a great way for us to continue debriefing on our past episodes. For example, the past episode was with Chris Underhill. If you haven't watched that webinar, feel free to go through the recordings because we discussed really interesting topics such as eldership, diversity, mental health, and well-being. And really excited to see how Sharon and Reggie also took this information in. So without further ado, I would love to pass the floor to Reggie.
Isaac, thank you, and welcome to all who watch this in real time, but or on tape delay. That's how old I am, not tape delay, but at a later time in your life. So before we dive into any conversation about what happened at the beginning of the month, first of all, just like what a busy month, right? Like what an opportunity to pause and be reflective of what we've been through. Because I don't know about y'all, but the past month has gone by so quickly. I feel like I've aged, right? So like my journey in elderhood like has been accelerated by May 2023, as if the past 3 years didn't accelerate it even more. So allow yourself to find a posture that gives you space, right? So if you're in an upright seat, perhaps doing something for the shoulders and or the wrists, just giving the body permission to be in motion, permission to find softness in an ever hardening world. Maybe you press the fingers together, or maybe you just shake out the hands, but remind the hands that it's okay to be soft. With shoulders back and down, remind the heart that it's okay to be soft and open. And with eyes soft or lowered or closed, remind the mind that it's okay to tune into other senses. Like I said, giving ourselves permission to pause as the world picks up pace again and again and again. Things just seem to be going faster. So we'll pause here with an awareness of the breath, whether it be counting the inhale or feeling the breath as a felt sense in the chest, in the throat, or listening to it. Choosing whatever breath anchor works for you while keeping softness in the hands, openness in the heart, and a sense of groundedness in the feet and the seat. So we'll sit in silence for about a minute, then I'll offer some sound because we have so much noise in the world. How delightful will it be to hear something other than noise? So a moment of silence and restoration, 30 seconds of sound, then we transition to community. Keeping your focus inward, keeping your gaze lowered or eyes closed. Allow the sound that I play to make you more present and more free. If eyes have closed, allow them to blink open. Gently open and close the hands, create friction in the palms. Then place heated hands on the face to bring you back into more external focus. And with that, we are now open. Isaac, was that good for you, brother?
This was great. It was really great. I'm still grounding myself. It's always great when you use this. So thank you for that, Reggie.
Thank you for the prompt. So we're gathering today to debrief the session that we had earlier this month with Chris Underhill, where we talked a lot about eldership and the othering of elders and the way elders may other themselves, and way that diversity, not only of race or gender, but age, is good for all of us. And we gave folks homework assignments that we'll get to in a minute, but I want to now pass to Sharon to see if she has any reflections or words that she cares to offer as we open.
Well, I was reflecting on what we were talking about, just chatting before we opened the session, which is this, of course, is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think they stuck meditation in there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Official title, Mental Health and Meditation Awareness Month, and it's the 30th already. So we were joking, like, what's going to happen next month? But then I realized, oh, we have one more day in which to be considering mental health, and how much I wish this was something we considered all the time. Just as we used to say, just as physical health is important and needs to be, cared about and reimbursed for, and if you have that kind of health insurance and so on, so does mental health, and even just in one's personal sensitivities to understand, how fragile life can be, how we all have kind of vulnerabilities of various kinds, and how alone we can feel, and how especially that aloneness is something we need to challenge. If you yourself are feeling vulnerable, not hiding that or feeling ashamed of that,
Right.
because there is a community that is understanding and loving. And if it's other people, look at how we other people and just kind of put them away. And if you're older, and I realized sort of at the beginning of the pandemic, oh my God, I'm an elder. Like I ever think that way, never. And then I was like, oh right, I'm an elder, and how we can other ourselves as well, depending on conditions. But certainly we other others, and have a feeling of, like, my life would be better if you were just somewhere else.
Mm.
We need to challenge that too, and realize, I think one of the things that came through very much with Chris is we need all people to fix all the problems that we have, that we're not alone personally, even if we feel that way, and that we shouldn't have an ethic of separation, that we need to really change that.
Right, and that everyone has a contribution, like just to draw
Yeah.
that out a little bit more, like, so regardless of your age, we need either your wisdom or your energy to fix the problems that we found ourselves in, right? And so
Yeah.
to other someone who may have valuable contribution just perpetuates harm on a societal level, and that's something that neither you nor I like support.
Yeah, no, it's like and again, at the beginning of the pandemic, a friend who's somewhat older than I, in that sort of climate here in the States, especially in the including New York area, where there was such a crisis, and such a lack of hospital resources and so on. My friend would say to me, "Do you think we would get a ventilator? I don't think we'd get a ventilator." And I thought,
Right.
oh, right, it's like I don't count anymore. I'm too old, and to think about that. I mean, I count for me, like,
I hope I count to somebody else, right?
yeah, if we count somebody else when the time comes, so it's actually a crisis, and something we need to address, because as you remind me so skillfully, Reggie, so often, we've got big problems, and we really do need everybody to try to address them. We collectively.
Right. We need each other. We need each other as a community, as opposed to othering one another, right? One other thing that has been lovely since we last met is that I was on your podcast and we just had a delightful conversation about the stigma associated with mental health, but also age. And so one of the homework assignments that we had was try to get through that stigma and just reacquaint ourselves with like people who happen to be chronologically advanced, just to re-engage with them. I know I still have my grandmother, who hopefully will get on the show at some point. But I talk to her as often as I can, and it's just such an enriching experience, right? I remember when I first started teaching, and she was just like, "So how does that work?" So she still has, she knows she can't really see that well, but she knows her mind is sharp as a tack. And so she'll be like, "Did you remember this? Or remember that time when I told you, blah, 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 blah." Like, just so to engage with someone who is 50 years older than me and still sharper mentally. Like, even if I didn't gain wisdom, my mind trying to keep up with her is like a good exercise, right? I'm just like, "Do you remember this? How do you remember that?" Like, it was, anyway. So those are just some other reflections that I had based on what you shared, Sharon. So we had these homework prompts, y'all, and because I am a teacher that was once a pretty special student, we're going to give you time to like consider the homework, even if you didn't do the homework. I always used to love when my professor would be like, "This was due, but we'll give you some time in the beginning of class to work on it." And I'm just like, yes, like, because I'm just trying to make it to class today. Like, I didn't do no damn homework. I got 3 jobs, but I thank you for letting me vent about my collegiate experience. So I'm going to bring up so Isaac, if you wouldn't mind putting the questions in the chat, because if I try and navigate my computer, I'll likely log myself out of the meeting, which some people may be into, but I don't really want to inject too much complexity into my life if I don't have to. So the one homework assignment was to thank an elder, and the other was asking a question of an elder to inquire with curiosity about their experience, and working on loving the whole person, right? So our culture, for better or for worse, and I'm not just talking about the United States, it's like Western culture writ large, tends to view life as disposable. Like, you don't have enough money. Like, you talk slower than me. I got stuff to do. So rather than like viewing people as objects, view it more subjectively with compassion. So if you did not do the homework, we're going to give time and breakouts to either just talk about it. I mean, y'all remember those times, and like, at least I do, when I was in college and I would have these seminars, and the seminar rewards the person who didn't do the work but really knows how to talk, right? So you can treat the breakout room like I used to treat my college seminars. "Reggie, you have insight." I'm like, I just am trying to make y'all think I know what I'm talking about. So if you did the work, you can reflect, or you can take the Reggie Hubbard approach around sophomore, junior year in university of just going to seminar, talk a lot, and try and convince people that you know what you're talking about. So since we have a bit of a smaller group today, we'll put you all together for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll break and talk about all these things and learn from each other, and then go from there. I hope that you had a rich conversation and would love to hear about it. So since we're a small group of loving fun, just unmute yourself and go for it. We'd love to hear what came about.
Well, maybe I can start. Thank you, Reggie.
Yeah, Fernanda, for sure.
Firstly, we talked about how eldership is relative. I mean, it doesn't have to do completely with age. There is a lot of wisdom in young people, and also there is a lot of childish attitudes in old people that are refreshing. Yes, so that is something that
cool.
was brought to the table, and was really interesting how it depends also in the context and in the life of everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Fernanda. Anybody else? I can share. Deborah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it was interesting because just to build on Fernanda's point, we were in the same breakout room, and Fernanda started and talked about the relativity, just how it's relative, eldership, and being a teacher in the classroom with students, that there's a way that, that she's an elder. And then as we got more into the layers of that, then I shared how I thought, oh, actually, there are ways that I, in really seeing myself as an edu learner with my undergraduate students as a co-learner, that there are ways that even though I'm much older in chronological age and years, that it's the wisdom of experience of what they've had to navigate in their lives, that I do, that they're like elders, I regard them as elders in some way for me. So we had such a wonderful conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, like it's and the next webinar we're doing is talking about like making of a modern elder. So harvesting that truth that wisdom resides in all ages, right? And like one of the blessings that I've had recently is I taught the first ever healing retreat for men of color at Kripalu this past week, and we had people from 23 to 60 in the same room. Right. So just to be able to create connection and share intergenerationally was just special. And I was sharing with this in pre-production before we came on. I've done a lot of cool things, but like the ability to create intergenerational conversation in an area where it typically doesn't exist reinforce that point, Deborah. So like we can all learn something from each other, and we can do it in a way that makes everyone feel a part of it, as opposed to apart from it.
It's funny because in some ways 23 to 60 seems so different from our, in general, day-to-day experience, and in some ways it doesn't even hit
Right.
margins by any means,
Right.
It's funny, it's like 15 to 85 would be more like,
woo, right. I
don't know how old your grandmother is, but
97.
Yeah, there you go. That is a venerable age.
Right. We had we had a family event recently. I have a half sister who's 22 and grandma's 97. So that was epic.
Yeah.
For sure. Anyone else?
I guess
Go ahead.
My little reflection at being in that category of folks who hadn't done the homework around just thinking about my elders and thanking my elders and having curiosity around their experiences was just that when I took stock of the elders that came to mind, that my relationship with them is more about doing than being together. And so I'm inspired to carve out some space that isn't about caretaking, that isn't about the I mean, my boss is one of the elders, so it's kind of built into that relationship. But yeah, there's a richness that's being lost if I'm focused on the doing.
Yeah, I love that as a frame, because when I've had conversations with elders, some of the stories that just jump out. Oh yeah, that time when we were running away from such like, huh? You know what I mean? Like when you're being with one another and like asking random questions or just things just arise. Like I remember on a road trip with my grandmother, she was like, "Well, that's a good rendition of Mac the Knife, but it ain't got nothing on what Satchmo did." So for my grandmother to riff off old school jazz thing, Mac the Knife, and talk about Louis Armstrong as Satch. Like I was just like, oh, you were a hip chick, grandma, okay. Right? She didn't say, oh, that's indicative of a time when la la. She was like, oh, that ain't got nothing on the one Satch did. Grandma, Satch, not even Satchmo. Wow. So, and then to hear her talk about, so my grandmother, she, until recently, she lived by herself in Southern Virginia. We have her up here now. It's just easier for her, for all of us and her, to be around a whole bunch of people. And she used to live in Washington, D.C. because they didn't have secondary education for Black people in Virginia. And so she had to move from Southern Virginia to Washington, D.C. to get her secondary education. And she went to high school, lived with one of her aunts near Howard University. And so my frisky grandmother is talking about chasing boys, acting like she was 20 when she was 15 in high school. And she just was like telling the stories. And I was just like, woo, okay, grandma, wow, okay. So like to engage with people, just spend time with them and see what arises, Renee, has been the richest experience that I've had on many levels. But the one I talk about the most is with my grandma. So
Yeah, I can
I love that
appreciate
share.
that a lot, because this is different from what I was going to say earlier, which I'll also say, but sometimes, at least in some families or some institutions, as a person gets older, at least the appearance or the surface is much more conservative. And it's only by hanging out and listening that you find out, like, you did that when you were younger? Like, you were kind of a radical, weren't you? Or you stepped out of the convention. I had no idea. I just thought of you as grandma or, the patriarch of the lineage or, the founder of the institution or something like that. And think, oh, yeah, there's a whole background there where maybe you broke all the rules or you were so bold, like you did something so different from what everyone was expecting, or so anyway, there's that. What I was going to say earlier is that I appreciated the point about there being wisdom in young people, because probably the most significant thing I've ever done in my life I did at 18, which was go to India to learn how to meditate. And I went intentionally to learn how to meditate. I don't think I'll ever make a move as dramatic or intense or whatever I do with my remaining years, and I think, how did I know? And it's like, I kind of knew. I didn't know really, like, chapter and verse, this is why I'm going, but I just knew I had to go. And so that's a beautiful thing to really recognize as well.
Yeah, Sharon, when I walked the property with Joseph the other day, like he told me about how y'all founded this thing with no real plan, right? He was just like, and so it was just funny. It was like, I don't know if I would have done it now, but
Oh, yeah.
I was in my 20s, so whatever. And now it has become like this epic meditation center. Anybody else? Well, hearing nothing, let's toss back to Sharon for some reflections and closing practice.
Yeah, thank you. As we come toward the end of Mental Health Awareness Month, I just want to highlight again something that really came out in the time that we had with Chris, which is the importance of community and how really precious and valuable it is to and sometimes it is a question of creating one or recreating one or whatever it might be. And I've seen, so many times in so many kind of crises that are generalized, so many people going through it, how the people who have some sense of, even if it's starting right then, even if it's not a long-standing sense of community, and it doesn't matter, I've found, even online, even, just a sense of connection within, a sense of belonging. So you don't feel whatever thing you're going through that life's forgotten you, that you're abandoned, that you're just cut off or alone. And as I get older, I see how important increasingly that is. And so just to, I think, bear that in mind, sometimes at times we feel the most alone. That's a signal that maybe we can either reach out or let others reach out to us, or remember to take care of one another, and not to ignore that, whatever other tools or skills you may be employing. So let's sit together some. And I've always found meditation kind of an oddity in that, because it may look like the most solitary activity in the world, like maybe you do it all alone, maybe your eyes are closed, but somehow in that process of getting a little quieter and seeing more clearly, one of the things we see clearly is how connected we all are, that's just the truth of things. And so it just happens that you don't have to make that happen, that insight or that understanding. It's one thing that's revealed. And so whatever practice you may do of introspection, whether it's meditation or journaling or whatever, just that process of getting a little quiet and getting clearer will reveal this. And so let's sit together. You can sit comfortably, close your eyes or not, just be at ease. Start by listening to sound, whether it's the sound of my voice or other sounds. It's a way of relaxing deep inside, allowing our experience to come and go, arise and pass away. And of course, we do like certain sounds and we don't like others, but we don't have to chase after them, to hold on or push away. Just let it come, let it go. And bring your attention to the feeling of your body sitting, whatever sensations you discover. See if you can feel the earth supporting you. And space touching you. You can bring your attention to the feeling of your breath, just the normal, natural breath, wherever you feel it most distinctly, at the nostrils, at the chest, or at the abdomen. You can find that place, bring your attention there, and just rest. See if you can feel one breath. The primary word is rest. We're going to rest our attention. As you rest your attention on the breath, thoughts may come and go. Sounds may come and go. Images, emotions, sensations, whatever. If they're not that strong, if you can stay connected to the feeling of the breath, just let them flow on by. You're breathing. It's just one breath. And if they are stronger, if they kind of pick you up and move your attention there, it's okay. You can just recognize, oh, this is what's predominant right now. There's thinking, there's joy, there's sorrow, whatever it is. Recognize it. See if you can let go. Bring your attention back to the feeling of the breath. And for all those many times, perhaps you are just gone, lost in a fantasy, tossed around by your thoughts. You fall asleep. Truly, don't worry about it. You can recognize that. See if you can let go gently and return your attention to the feeling of the breath. No matter how many times you have to do that, it's fine. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes or lift your gaze, and we'll end the meditation. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you all. Isaac, if you have some announcements, please run them through. Love and grace to all. This has been delightful.
Thank you so much, Reggie and Sharon, and also Alana in the background for this episode, and all of you. It's always a magical moment when all of us are here and present. Also, the ones who are watching the episode, the recording. Thank you for sharing this time with us. And we would love to invite you to the next webinar episodes that will be happening next week on June 6th with Chip Conley. Chip is the co-founder of Modern Elder Academy, which supports students to navigate midlife with a renewed sense of purpose and possibility. We already had our prep call, and it was very fun. So we are definitely having a really nice and fun time with Chip next week. So feel free to register and to join us next week for other moments with our amazing hosts again, Sharon and Reggie, and hopefully with you all there. So thank you so much, and see you soon.
Blessing and peace. Thank you very much.